Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar from OpenBB on learning and getting to know the OpenBB Terminal. Today, we're going to talk about performing financial due diligence, and Jeroen is going to take us through everything. If you want to follow along or download the presentation, it is available in our hub under the presentations section. You can have a copy and follow along as well for those that are only on the phone. This will be recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel as well as our website if you want to rewatch or share with others as well. And without further ado, Jeroen, I'll hand it over to you to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. And welcome everyone to our second webinar. And the last time we really discussed we're getting started with the OpenBB Terminal. How does it function and how do you really set everything up? And in this one, I want to go to an actual use case of the OpenBB Terminal and show you if you have your key set, if you have registered it with the hub and downloaded the software, what you can really do with it and how advanced it can really get. So without further ado, let's get started because today we will be talking about performing financial due diligence, which is a very important topic if you do any kind of stock analysis or stock picking. So this is going to be the agenda for today. I will be going over the company Coca-Cola. And this is quite a well-established company, which makes it worthwhile to analyze, to really see how they have been performing over the very long period. Then we will be looking at stock prices, be looking at the dividends. I want to look a bit about management, ownership, capitalization, which is enterprise value and market capitalization. Then I want to focus on the revenues, the profit margin, and the valuation trends. The topic really that's really about, okay, how has the company has been performing in the past and do I see growth? And lastly, we're going to look at future expectations. And I think an additional bullet will be that we will also look at the related routine script that is part of this presentation, which you can also find on the hub. With that script, we will also be looking at Pepsi, a competitor to Coca-Cola, of course. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with the introduction to Coca-Cola. And I think before I get started, like Jerry says, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll just stop for a moment and I can answer the question, as well as if I go too fast, just let me know. Or if you want to see specific functionality that I won't be touching upon inside the stocks menu. But let's start with the introduction to Coca-Cola. I think every one of you is well aware of what Coca-Cola does. It is a company that operates on a global scale. The brand is, I think, really well known to basically anyone, but they have all kinds of different flavors as well. So it's not only Coca-Cola, but it's also Sprite, Fanta, and other sparkling soft drinks. So that's really what the company is. And yeah, as part of the presentation, I will be focusing on financial due diligence, and that is this is to set the definition that is really about examining financial records, also financial statements like a balance sheet, income statement, or a cash flow statement, and based on all the information and the research that you do, decide on whatever you want to invest or divest into the research company. And I use a source from Investopedia as a base, and which you can read upon as well as I provided the link at the bottom. So without further ado, I'm now going to look at all the topics that also Investopedia talks upon, and to really understand what is Coca-Cola and how has Coca-Cola been performing in the past and what are the expectations. So starting with stock prices and dividends. Now it's time to get down directly inside the terminal because the very first step is searching for Coca-Cola, finding the related ticker and then loading in the data. So let's get into the terminal. Let me expand this, make the screen a little bit bigger so you can read it. So of course, everything really revolves around the stocks menu. So I enter the stocks menu here. Then, because it could be that if you don't know what the ticker is, because the terminal operates based on tickers, you can use the search commands that's out here at the top. So I can search, you know, go company. And then I let it search, and then it finds me the correct symbol. So as you can see, the symbol here is KO. I can see what sector and industry the company is located in, but for now, I'm just concerned about the symbol. So what I can actually do now is I can load KO, which gets me the historical data, but actually want to load a much greater periods because the company has actually been around for quite some time. As a note here as well, it's been around since 1962. So, so what I can do actually, I can say, okay, forward, and let's do this date instead. So now collects all the historical data all the way from 1962. And for this, we have the command candle, which will give me the historical data. So this pops up a chart, takes some time to load, because it's, of course, a lot of data that you will be looking at. Let's give it a minute. As you can see here, you will see the entire growth of Coca-Cola over its existence. So as you can see, for a very long period, it has been flat, but well, since around the 2000s, it has been growing quite a lot, and it doesn't seem to stop anytime soon. So at least for the last almost 15 years, it has just been growing and growing and growing, increasing value. That's for me, as I personally am more a long-term investor, this is a good signal, because if you see that the company is constantly growing, it kind of appears that it is a pretty steady company. We have different companies, like a great example is Alibaba, that moves up and down quite a lot, quite a volatile stock. Well, then you need a lot more active management, so you need to be a lot more involved into your investments to ensure that you are not investing for 10 years and then end up with around zero return. But this is a great indicator at the start of okay, it's been trending upwards for a pretty long time. So then we loaded in the data and we looked into the candle charts. And so actually what the next slide is going to be about, and that's also what you are seeing right here. This is kind of the same chart that we just explored. So, as I mentioned, indeed, it has been growing for quite some time. Then it's now time to enter the fundamental analysis menu. This is really the menu that is dedicated to financial due diligence. So that opens up this menu, and we actually categorize this menu in a similar fashion how you would do financial due diligence. So it starts with like a company overview. This is also where you find the historical dividends, which we will be touching upon in a second. And it also gives you something about the market cap. And then the topic that we will be discussing later is management and ownership. And then you got your financial statements. And then lastly, we will touch upon the future expectations. So, but for now, let's focus on dividends. And this is actually quite important, especially in your analysis. Let me also include the plots. It's actually quite important to see that there has been a constant stream of dividends, because it's if you compare it to a stock that doesn't pay dividends, it's actually that actually changes up a lot how you should view the returns of each stock. Because of course, if a company is paying dividends, then you get an extra bonus on top of the already rising stock price. So it could be that a competitor like Pepsi or any other stock maybe issue a high return, but if you also calculate into the dividends that you're getting, it could be that it's actually quite lower. That's some great things to keep in mind when basically what's going on. All right, so I just showed you dividends. I now want to go into what the stock splits actually, because stock splits also give some indication regarding the level of the stock, or basically how much is stock worth. Let me rephrase it differently. If a stock currently sells or buys at 2,000, that actually has quite a big impact on how much you can buy of it and how well you can optimize the cash you have. So if you constantly need to buy one stock of let's say Amazon, I believe that's pretty high right now. Let's say you have, I don't know, you have 1,000 to spend, then you can only buy one of the stocks every 3 months, for example. That's actually an issue. It's a cash management issue. So it's always important to check, okay, is the company actually trying to make it more attractive for me to buy the stock? And as you kind of can see, there's quite a bit of stock splits, which result in quite a low price for the stock. So that's actually quite positive. It's good to note that stock splits, I think that's a common misconception that you can actually earn something from this, that the fact that it splits in half, or that you get more shares is actually gaining you money. That's not really the case, but it just really helps in liquidity management, which is pretty crucial. So it's good that we can see that Coca-Cola is actively ensuring that the stock doesn't rise to like insane levels. And that's also complemented with a table as well here. So that's some great overall insights in the company, and what's maybe showing here. And now let's continue to management, ownership, and capitalization. So up until now, I have mostly just explored, okay, this is Coca-Cola, this is the stock price, the growing trends. And now I want to understand a little bit about who is behind the company. And that's actually quite important, because let's say I have a CEO that is constantly out there in the news, spreading false rumors or supporting something that you don't really believe in, then that's of course an important thing to look into before you invest in the company. And of course, we have all kinds of variables commands for and doing exactly that. So again, inside the same menu that we are already in, you can find things like management. So if I now call management, you get an entire table that shows you who is the CEO, who is the CTO, the COO, and what are the divisions. So for example, you've also got the Latin America unit. All of these are here collected to me, offer you links so that you can actually visit Google searches and discover, okay, James Quincy, has he been bad in the news, or is it actually as someone that is really propelling the company forward? And similar, that's important statistics to look into when you decide to invest in this firm. So this is the first thing that you look at. The second thing that you really should be looking at is the shareholders. Who is currently holding this company? And this actually comes from things like activist investors, and also just to understand who has a voice in the direction that this company is taking. So let me quickly show you this. Type shares, I get a table similar to what you just saw, where we can get insights of, hey, who is owning a portion of this company. I think one of the important things that you can read from this is that Coca-Cola is practically not family owned. it's just a company that has shareholders and a group of investors, generally large institutional clients or institutional funds, are holding a stake into this company. So based on this, you can also check, okay, so if Berkshire Hathaway and Vanguard and BlackRock are holding such a large portion of the stock, do you understand what their view is on this company, and would you agree with this? Well, that's also some important things to look into when you make the decision to invest in this company. So this, as you can imagine, I've just touched upon a few of the things, but there's so much to look at when you want to invest in a company. That is not just saying, okay, the stock goes up, so I invest in it. You actually need to really understand every single portion of it. You really need to know deeply, okay, well, what are the values or the mission of the company, and who is driving that mission? Well, that's the management, but also the shareholders that hold a significant stake into the company. So, and to round it up, it's always important to look into the market cap. So that's right here on the top. And with market cap, it gives you kind of a similar graph than you've seen with the candle chart, but it gives you a sense of growth. It gives you a sense also of size of the company. Whereas I just saw, okay, we got a share price of 60. Now I actually know the market capitalization is very high, meaning that this is actually a large to mega cap company existing in the United States. So that also really levels the playground between smaller competitors like Pepsi is of course also a bigger one, but you have smaller players in the market as well. And that also makes comparison between those players well interesting, but also not always as valuable as comparing it between big guys. So that's important to know, that if you see this as a big company, you should be comparing that to other big companies, because they do have the resources to compete with a company like this. And let's continue. So these are the general statistics. Now let's look a little bit into the actual important ratios to really understand, is a growing company, is the business going well, and how does it compare to its competitors? And that sections is the financial statement section that shows you the income balance sheet and cash flow statement, but also all kinds of ratios. So just to give you an example, let's say I want to see all those income statements. Here you go. Here you got income statements all the way back from 1985. So this is quotable data that we have available inside the terminal. And based on this, you can see, okay, is the revenue grown? Well, definitely it is, but how does that relate also to the cost of revenue? It could be that there's revenue growth, but if they also need to pay more to sell the products, well, maybe it's not in balance as well as you want it to be. That's why I look at things like the gross profit ratio. If you want to see an increase in on which you actually do see this. Those are some of the important things to look at in the income statement. But I think what I really want to focus on is the actual ratios and the growth ratios. Just look at the income statement. But now just look at the ratios, because ratios are actually really vital to really understanding the company deeply. It's only so much that you can say, okay, it has Coca-Cola had a revenue of 10 billion. And even if, let's say, Pepsi had a revenue of 8 billion, that doesn't mean that Coca-Cola is by definition better than the other. And that's really where ratios really stand out, where you can, better compare each stock and also really understand how well are they managing their assets. A great ratio always to look at is the current ratio. This kind of shows you how well they are able to manage the short-term assets and short-term liabilities. So you want to be around 1. That's pretty good. That's solid cash management. If you have current ratios of like 4 or 5, that means that you have probably way too much inventory and you have way too much cash on hand that you're not really doing anything with. So that's really great to compare that. I want to see a number around 1. It can depend a little bit on the industry, of course. In some industries, you might really want more cash. You don't want you don't want to be so tightly bundled up around 1. With focus we go there, especially in the retail market, it can make sense to have it around 1. But really, this goes a lot further. Like you have all kinds of ratios that you can look into. Like the profit margin, this is kind of the number that we already saw because it's also part of the income statement. But also things like effective tax rates. It's always interesting to see that a large corporate only pays 18% tax. And I know that some of the corporates actually pay even more or even less. Well, those are these things that are really interesting to look at to understand how well is the company actually performing and how much and how efficient is it with reducing its net income to pay lower taxes. That's a bit of a debate, of course, as well as viewpoint investor. Do you want to invest in a company that actively tries to minimize the tax it's paying? To some extent you do, because then there is more money available for research and development and similar. Those are the kind of insights that you can get out of all of these metrics. I don't want to go in depth for each and every one of them because there is so much. We really offer 50 plus different ratios that you can look into based on what the sector you're looking at. So, of course, now I'm primarily talking about Coca-Cola, but I could also be talking about an airline or semiconductors where different ratios apply to them that are really important to look at. Well, let's just continue here. Because maybe to touch upon one of the most important ones is, of course, the price to equity and the price to book ratios. Got the price to book value ratio over here, price to book here, price earnings ratio. That gives a sense of how cheap a stock is or how well it's managing how much earnings you get in return for a stock. And that's in essence what it says over here. Those are just important to keep in mind that it shouldn't be too high. It also shouldn't be too low. But yeah, just some ways just to look into. I think what's interesting to share here is that the growth as well. That also helps in understanding better how each ratio is evolving. I think a great, let me find it. Then, for example, revenue growth, where you always want to see a positive number. You want to see it go up, or at least you want to see it go up for the EBIT. And in most cases, it actually is. There's just some great things to look at. Without further ado, this is so much to look at. I am just showing you a couple of things here, what you can do. But most importantly, and what I've seen so far for Coca-Cola is actually quite positive numbers. It matches with my expectations that the stock appears to be trending upwards, and it has been doing so for a long time. And if you look at all of the metrics, you kind of get that same image. But yeah, that's my perception right now, and that's why I think it's really important to also cover the last topic, which is the future expectations. And this is actually pretty crucial in the investment world. You're of course not alone. There are thousands of people that are looking at a stock like Coca-Cola. It's important to understand also what their opinions are on the stock, especially if you think you should be selling the stock and every single analyst tells you need to buy it, then you might need to reconsider, does it really make sense that I want to sell the stock in this current market condition? Well, you could be a really great analyst and actually, and just like you saw in the financial crisis, when there were people that actually already saw the bubble happening, it could be that you are one of those people with always be careful with those observations, of course. And here what I want to show you is the EST command first. And EST actually gives some estimations from the aggregate of analysts on what they are expecting to happen to Coca-Cola. So they, for example, they expect the revenue to grow further, dividends actually to increase further. This actually matches up well with an increase in stock price. And basically anything to really go up. So there is quite a positive perception on what's going to happen with Coca-Cola in the near future. You can actually validate that with PT. PT is the price target. And basically what PT, if I include the raw argument, tells me is, okay, well, what do analysts from all kinds of different banks and investment offices think about Coca-Cola, and what is their recommendation? What you can see here is a lot, let's say, buy the company. It comes from Deutsche, it comes from Citigroup, it comes from Barclays, Wells Fargo as well, over here, Credit Suisse. Well, maybe don't take this with a grain of salt right now. But as you can see, the analysts are saying, and the estimation as well say, this is a stock that you should be buying or holding for this the period of time. Open indications to really suggest that, okay, this is actually a stock worthwhile to invest in. Also looking at the past performance, it has been incredibly steady. And just to add on, you can do that with, of course, any company. And then lastly, what I want to show you is the DCF. Before we switch over to the routines, actually. And the DCF is, you might know that it's a discounted cash flow analysis. And basically what a DCF does, it gives you, based on some growth metrics, for example, in this one, we used Pharma and Friends three-factor model to predict the future cash flows ahead of time. So you get a sense of, okay, if this model tells you as well that you should be expecting in growth, then perhaps that can even signal that this is a great opportunity to buy in the stock. And what just happened? It says here it saves a DCF to a folder. This is the OpenBB user data folder. I touched upon this last time as well. This is a folder where all the exports are saved to, but also all the routine scripts similar that you want to store locally. And within the exports folder, you will now find this file, the DCF. And if I now open this, you would find this entire analysis. So what you see over here is it takes data from the past and then it extrapolates it forwards. Based on some growth ratio, it tries to tell you, okay, these are the expectations of this model. And this is, of course, a big portion of this is the input that you're giving it. For example, based on these metrics on the regression model, it actually tells you that the stock is, in terms of revenue, going down. So then it's up to you to decide, okay, what are the variables that are in place here, and does it make actually sense that what my DCF currently tells me regarding the revenue makes sense. But that's also where you can look into things like the explanations. And if I then look, for example, at it always looks at the revenue, and you would sometimes see that there is a very weak relationship between the two. So then, even though it estimates, okay, something's going down, if the relationship is weak, basic statistics, then might not even be that's valuable to look into that as well. But yeah, this also includes some ratios as well that we also have in parts of the OpenBB Terminal. Doesn't this one of the many things that you can look into? And to really wrap it all up, I want to end with a routine script, because just like all the other presentations, we have a routine script that allows you to automatically execute a series of commands directly into the terminal. So that's why we have this section over here. That's in the home screen. You can say XC, and you can say I want to execute the routine scripts. And if you're logged into the OpenBB hub, what you will find is a set of scripts. So you got the influence of the central bank, a topic that we'll be touching upon later, I think very relevant as well. We got the Greek government debt crisis, which will be in around 2 weeks. And we got financial due diligence. So this is related to this presentation. If I now press enter, it tells me I need to define inputs, because what this script is asking you to find is the ticker. So for Coca-Cola, it's KO. If I would now do the same steps and search for Pepsi, I would find that it is PEP. So I can let the script run, and as you can see, it's collecting all kinds of financial data. So it's currently being created. So let's first delve into what this script is doing for a company like Coca-Cola. So I'd open up this file, and basically what you see over here is you see all the data that I just explored inside an Excel file, which allows you to modify it, but you like to modify it, or maybe do some other ratio calculations that you like to see. So here you got market data, you got the dividends, got all the stock lists, management we discussed, the shareholders as well, market capitalization, which actually also looks at the enterprise value. The income statements go all the way back to 1985, and of course balance cash flow and similar. But also the financial ratios that you can delve deeper into in these numbers and actually use them for whatever calculation you want. As you can mention, you can also plot this, because Excel, of course, has plotting functionalities as well. You will use this data further. And yeah, that's upon ionics and estimates and price talks as well. But what's really interesting here is that I just did this for Coca-Cola. I just did this entire analysis for Coca-Cola. But as part of your research, you should always be looking at competitors as well. You should be able to make an educated decision based on all the competitors, and then pick the one that seems to be performing best. Because it's also something what, for example, Warren Buffett says, a company is only as strong as its competitive edge. So it could be that Coca-Cola is doing well, it's doing fine, but Pepsi is constantly outpacing them, getting better revenues, really improving their margins so much more than Coca-Cola is able to do. That there's going to be a point in time where perhaps people start drinking Pepsi a lot more than Coca-Cola. Well, those kind of things that is important for the competitive analysis, that you look at those other companies as well. So what the routine script just did, was collect the same data for Pepsi. So here you can again see market data, you can see the dividends, you can see the stock splits that happened, and again, you can see the entire management team. You get the point. It's really about getting the exact same data, so you can really compare company to company with the exact same numbers. So with this information and with these Excel sheets, I can really delve deeper, for example, the financial ratios, and compare profit margins with each other, or compare current ratio. How well is Pepsi actually managing the assets compared to Coca-Cola? It could be that I saw that it was around 1 for Coca-Cola. It could be that Pepsi is actually managing their assets a lot better. There's all kinds of things that are important to look into when you do your research, and this is also what all the things that we offer. And just to conclude, within the OpenBB Hub, of course, you can find all of this information. As Jerry already said, the presentation that I just covered is right over here on financial due diligence, exactly the same type of slides as I've shown. But here you can also find the routine scripts. So within the OpenBB terminal, you can go to script routines, And then right at the default, we'll find this button into the diligence page. And this tells you exactly what is happening at every step. So just to summarize, so this rephrase that a routine script is just a file and that contains the commands that you're used to in OpenBB Terminal, and it just automates all of the process. So by including this argument, which basically is the input. So if I input pep, it will replace all of these words with pep. But with this, you can really automate the entire process. That's basically what I want to show you here. And of course, let's say I want to use this. You can also just create your own personal scripts. As I, for example, here have one that enters the stock menu, collects Pepsi data, goes to Coca-Cola, and then it allows you to overlay actually the Pepsi data with Coca-Cola. Well, let me just demonstrate this to you. Go to the file, on the stock, and I just let this run. And then it opens up a chart for Coca-Cola. And with the tools that we have over here, I can now say, okay, I want to actually overlay some data. So it saved this file as basically this is exactly what was written down in the script as well. So it's here, export to this data set. And from here on, I can just say, okay, open it. I want it automatically recognizes, okay, this looks like it's historical market data. Well, that's exactly correct. Let me just change the color so you can actually recognize what you're looking at here. Let's do this, and let's call this BP. And let's see if everything. And there you can see the movements of Pepsi compared to Coca-Cola. So based on this chart, you can now, for example, delve further into also technical analysis, because if you just look at this, it appears that they are moving really close together. That just signals that, okay, apparently they're highly correlated with each other. Is that because they are both have plenty of room in the market, or perhaps it's because of economic conditions? Perhaps it was that the economic environment was really, really great for both of these companies. There's all kinds of insights that you can get and you can analyze further. And I think I can keep talking about this because this is just a stocks menu, but we have an entire menu dedicated to the economy as well. It's of course also a very important determinant of how well these companies can grow. Because we'll be touching upon that soon in 2 weeks as well. But based on things like the interest rate in the country or the inflation rate, that is really it's really promoting as well the market or the economic environments that these firms are in. And if other countries are just performing a lot better, or have a much lower interest rate, that actually promotes growth much more than a company that has, or a country that has an interest rate of 10%. But more on that later. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about the Greek debt crisis, which is an incredibly interesting case for understanding and how well, or actually how bad a country can be controlled as well, and what that really does to the entire economy, but also really to the companies in that country. Yeah, this is basically my last thing I wanted to share.
So that concludes our webinar. And thank you again, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, everyone.